is Road 36 to Infinity, and my name is Kaide, and you're taking part of my journey. I'm inviting you in, wanting to share some stuff, and I hope that what I have to share can be of use, like that it's helpful for you. And if you do enjoy watching these videos, you will help me out a lot by liking these videos, because from my understanding that it actually helps out with reaching out to a wider audience. This here now, Road 36 to Infinity, is basically a vlog of sorts, a diary, a summary, documentation of what I'm doing. And what I've decided to do now is that instead of doing this every second week, which was my initial plan, or which I did since I started this new journey, I've decided to do once a month, and I'm gonna try that out because the idea is by doing it once a month that I can put more time into like making one video and also creating more space for myself in my own practice, in my own research, because I felt that on my own to do like filming, editing, and practicing and researching stuff, it took a lot of time and I felt overwhelmed. This is now the second video of 2024 of Road 36 to Infinity, and where I'm gonna take you through what's been going on. This episode I've divided into highlights, Taskmaster, trip down memory lane. Let's just dive into it. All right, so this segment is called highlights. This is where I want to just talk about, well, basically I'm summarizing the month that has been. So that would be January. The way I keep track of my weeks, because of course I could just think back and what the heck did I do? But I wanted to do that by, first of all, improving my vlogging skills. So I want to document more often so that I basically can literally take the moments I had something to share and just put it in here. I created a weekly planner, a weekly practice planner for myself, where I have not only the ability to be able to see how my weeks have been in terms of practice, how consistent was I, what did I get to do, what did I not get to do, and also in this planner I've created sections for me to reflect. So if anything stood out that day, I'll write it down. If I had an idea that day, I'll write it down so it's there. If my body felt in a specific way, I'll write it down. So basically the first week of January was getting into preparation for the year to start, because that was my last week free from, it was my last week free from anything really. And I was only in the space of practicing. So something that I wrote down in my planner was that up until now, so from the moment I started Road 36 to Infinity to this very moment, so beginning of Jan, I had a hard time really diving into or keeping consistency in my footwork practice. Something that I mentioned in a different video, the Art of Practice video, I talked about visualization. In my practice, I have divided into four categories. And one of the categories is my morning practice. So my morning routine, which consists of yoga, a workout, meditation, and reading. And the meditation now, I start to shift into having that as a moment of visualization. So I was inspired by another dancer, which I also mentioned in that video. Her name is Vivi, and she would work with footwork practice. An element of her practice would be to visualize herself practicing the footwork. And I thought this was a nice idea to implement in my own practice. So as I already had a moment of meditation, to use that time to visualize, enter a space of visualizing myself practicing the footwork. But the thing I wanted to try also was to do that and practice the footwork. So I wanted to have a moment of purely just visualizing me practicing the footwork, and then after a while to stand up and to actually do the footwork and just slowly drill it, and to do that for a while, and then to jump back into visualization. Again, now I've had a hands-on with the footwork, physically felt it. I dived back into my visualization. I'm hoping that this will make it easier for me to then visualize myself practicing the footwork, and then I would repeat that again of doing it physically. I have to say that up until now, it's been working well. At least it's kept me busy daily with the footwork. So this is a part of the footwork practice, because then ideally also I would want to spend time just physically drilling the footwork. This would be a perfect opportunity also to work on any other footwork foundation variations, and so on. So that I touch on the footwork practice at different times and also in different ways. So yeah, that's something I started doing in January. And then the first weekend was Culture of Hype and Hope. What can I say? I had a good time. It was nice. It was nice to start the year with an event, but to also see people, dancers, and be inspired because the level is so nice. And this edition of the Hype and Hope, the water edition where they normally have house, it was so nice to see so many good dancers at the location. I don't remember the amount of dancers, but I think it was between 80 and 100. And I'm happy that I passed top 16. I had a nice exchange in my top 16 against Flashadi. He got the most votes, and I lost in my top 16. Again, like I said, I felt really good, and I take with me the experience. And at that event, I also spent time ciphering and exchanging with amazing people, amazing dancers. So all in all, I received a lot during that event. So I walked away happy. So in my second week in January, I went to the school in the woods, folkhögskola, to teach. I really had a good time diving into floor work with the groups that I had, and also taking time to talk about not only floor work, but to talk about practice, which I think also was appreciated, and it just motivated me or inspired me to search for more opportunities to do that and to talk about practice, because I think it's something that is not spoken of so much. And I think especially coming out of an education, it's easy to become lost in, goals and how do I get there and what do I do with all this information I've received? Where do I place it? So I think to just talk and be able to be of guidance in a way is something I would like to do more. So hopefully you'll see me do that more in the future. Third week, going from Sweden, I flew to Amsterdam because I was gonna teach at another dance education, expanded contemporary dance education, the University of the Arts in Amsterdam. It was interesting because I had almost a full week. So I think I had 4 days, 2 to 3 hour sessions each day, where I basically dove into the Leviathan flow practice. For me now, Leviathan flow is my movement quality, is my movement language, my dance language, the way I am when I dance. And to share this approach with students, it's very nice. I enjoy it because I believe that there's benefits in sharing the way I approach practice, because at the end of the day, what I'm practicing is freestyle, and then how to just move your body, how to be aware of what you're capable of, and to really boil it down to the bare minimum that you have at your disposal, and then to layer all the other things on top of that. Also received a lot of interesting questions. For example, one of the the questions that I got was, what is my goal / vision with Leviathan flow, but also specifically sharing Leviathan flow. These are areas I can develop and I can think more about, because it is clear, but it can become clearer. And also, I had one of the students ask me how it came about that I created my own method. But this is where I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's easy to fall into a feeling like an imposter syndrome. But basically, I mean, a method. For me, it's also an approach, a way of doing things, and it doesn't have to be called a specific thing, but the things that I'm working on and the way I am working, the way I'm approaching my dance practice is giving shape to the way I'm moving. It's nurturing these specific movement qualities, and the way I am practicing is my way of practicing, hence it's becoming my method of practicing, and the method is giving energy, giving life, giving attention to this Leviathan flow. So yeah, just basically sharing how I dance, because I think that's also something that is hard when we share our dance experiences, because it's one thing to share the technical side of a dance. So like every dance has their techniques, right? Like their basics, what makes this style of dance different, what makes this form of dance different from these other forms. And within all of these, everybody's gonna have their own interpretation, their own combination of experiences, which results in a way of moving. Everybody's body is different, everybody's understanding of movement is different. So to be able to then parallel to teaching a style, a form of dance, and what makes the way you move different from others, how do you share that? And for me, that is what Leviathan Flow is about. How do I share what makes me move the way I move? What out of this can help you, or can provide inspiration in the way you practice? Yeah, I think it was a nice week because I get to just dive deeper into this. Definitely a highlight, just the challenge of sharing something that is also personal to me. The last 2 weeks of January, I spent time teaching at the University of the Arts in Stockholm. Mission this time was the same, to share my dance practice method. What is different with all these educations is the type of dancers. In the first at School in the Woods, everybody has street dance as their base. Then in Amsterdam, it was a little bit of a mix of students with some street dance background and contemporary. And then in Stockholm, my final stop, it was only or mainly, the majority were contemporary dancers. And then same or similar information, and that all was received very differently. But all in all, I had a good time. It was challenging, definitely. These challenges make me want to just keep on doing what I'm doing, and also to clarify, to refine, so that when I do share, I really try to transfer as much useful information as possible. And I'm not trying to convince people that this is how they have to practice, but I'm just hoping that it'll spark something that will make them look at their own dance differently, to broaden their horizon. That is what I'm trying to do. That was the month of January, basically. So it was a lot of sharing, very intensely, 2 different countries, 3 different cities, and just teaching a lot. And I hope I get to do more of that. And the month of January actually ended with me immediately going to house dance forever. But that's for February. But I can just, spoiler alert, I didn't pass top 24. That's it. So those were the highlights of January, and on to the next segment. Just gonna first review what was the task I had set for myself for January, and how did it go? So the task I gave myself was 2 things actually, but one that was main was to start checking my footwork variation library from 2023. So during 2023, I was trying to really dive deeper into my dance practice. So in this case, house dance. And the way I wanted to do that was to then focus on 5 footwork foundations. So the idea is to then, instead of practicing all the footwork foundations that are out there, that are available, that are being taught and are part of the vocabulary of house dance. In theory, if I get really, really good with 5, I should be so good that people watching wouldn't even think that I merely was using 5. The ways I would be using the footwork would almost seem like I had multiple foundations I was playing with. But again, narrowing it down to only 5. And during last year, I was practicing and I would record the sessions. I would just improvise with these footwork. And out of these sessions, I would stumble upon ideas, either footwork variations I have done and then they came back up, they resurfaced, or it was other variations or maybe concepts to play with, how I can play with variations. I would then, film, and when these different variations would pop up, I thought to myself like, ooh, it would be a good idea to kind of like just collect all these ideas, no matter how clear or how refined they were, but if I could see a glimpse of something that I found interesting, to then take that part and save it, and then to make like a library of all of this footage and then practice them and have them really embodied. Well, this was a task that I never fulfilled last year, and I set myself to do that for the month of January, and I failed my task. The first task of the year, I miserably failed. I don't feel awful, but I feel bad about it. So I'm giving myself another chance. So I'm gonna set the same task for month of February to at least start with checking through the variations I've set. And again, the plan is to collect them so that I later can, when I then practice my footwork, I can then dedicate time in refining and amplifying my library of footwork. You might be asking, but Kaide, you said two tasks. I did. The second task I had set for myself, which I also failed miserably, was to incorporate fire elements in my practice. Yeah, I haven't really paid attention to this task, but this is a task that I want to get to, where it's like most of my practice at the moment, when it comes to elements, for me, I am earth, which is my natural layer, and then with the Leviathan flow practice, water. And then I wanted to add a touch of fire because that's an element I fear. No, I don't fear it. I push it away because I feel like that's such an opposite of my natural state, because I do believe somewhere that, that all of us have a certain percentage of all these elements. So earth, wind, fire, and water. I want to incorporate more fire in my practice. I think it's good to do one task at a time. I'll leave that aside. So the task for February, footwork variation library. What's the difference between a task and a goal? Because I've set goals for this whole year that I'm working towards. But then also on my way, I'm just giving me it's just things I want to check off my list. Is this something that you think would work for you, to set a task for like a month at a time? And what would be a nice task for yourself? Maybe share that in the comments below. And I'm just curious to see where everybody is at in their practice. Now we go into the next segment. I made such a rookie mistake. I forgot to delete the previous videos on the memory card. And so this whole segment was not caught on tape. Caught on tape, caught on film, caught on at all. This segment is called Trip Down Memory Lane. So basically this is where I take a moment to just check, where was I last year and how is that different today, and is there something I can take with me from last year into this year as maybe a reminder, maybe I went through something that might be helpful where I am today. So the way I did that now, to do this trip down memory lane, was to actually find the videos that covered the month of January. That was something I was doing so well last year, was that I did a video basically every week. Dang, when I look back at that, that's if anything, that's a huge difference from last year to now. And I also filmed myself differently, because last year I would film my practice straight up real time. So I would just film my practice And then I would always have that so that I could look back at and also share if I wanted to. But now what I've done is that I film my practice as a what's that called? What's that called? Time lapse. I've been filming my practice as a time lapse, just to kind of like, basically the reason why I did that is so that it wouldn't take up as much space as I saved it, but also to just have a quick overview of what I was doing, what my practice consisted of, and also literally to just have as proof that I did my practice. I think I'm gonna carry out the same way I'm recording it. So just a bunch of time lapses of my full practices, but it's something that I will think about when I then go into my next year of Road to Infinity. How do I want to record my practice, and do I want to record my practice? And if I do I want to record all of it? Because at this point, when I've built up such a habit of practicing, I no longer need to film just to keep myself accountable or to just keep myself on track, because I have so much trust in this habit I've built. But then I need to think, if I continue to film my practice, why do I want to do that, and what do I want to film? So that's something to think about. I need to write that down. And I checked the videos, I made some notes, and I was thinking to just go through it with you. A very clear difference from last year to this was how the year started. Last year, it started off very low on energy. I was sick, I was very demotivated. Things in my personal life that were also not on the high positive side of life. Yeah, I really was on a low last year. It's winter, I'm in Sweden, so it gets very dark here in the Nordic countries, very early, and it's cold. How can you not feel low during a time like that? What I do notice is that your practice kind of goes through its own little, 4 seasons. And I think the winter season for me, it is a space where I do normally feel like my motivation kind of drops a little bit. But this year, what was different was that I entered a state of productivity where I was looking into my practice overall. So it was like a moment of where I would reflect over my practice. How has the time been up until now, up until that point, and how do I want to do things differently? So I actually sat down with my practice and I readjusted some stuff and wrote down maybe goals or like projects I want to do. I felt very inspired creatively to look at things around my practice that wasn't the actual physical execution of stuff. I think I was just very hyped to do that. Last year, I remember I was very focused on Summer Dance Forever. Which I understand, because that event was basically what motivated me to even kickstart this project. So that was my main focus last year, and this year it is not my main focus, even though it is a focus. But last year I was really counting down to Summer Dance Forever. I was also thinking that any changes in my practice was as a preparation for that event. And now I am basically diving into my practice and preparing for everything. I'm going into my practice with the goal of finding out how good I can become. And then all these events that I participate in are moments for me to kind of like check, where am I at? That is very different this year. And I recently saw a quote that basically put this in perspective. Probably the quote that defines the mentality I'm trying to dive into or to really sustain this year, which is, if you chase butterflies, they will fly away. But if you then take care of your garden, butterflies will come to you. And if they don't come, at least you have your garden. And this is a quote that I don't remember who said this, I don't know. But this is something that really, inspired me, because last year I was very focused on chasing the butterflies. And the butterflies for me are these events and these achievements and these positive outcomes that I'm hoping to reach, hoping to experience. And then the tending or the taking care of your garden, in my case, is my practice. If I just focus on taking care of my practice and taking care of my garden and really giving it love and attention and my time, that eventually these butterflies will come to me. And if they don't, at least I have my garden. So at least I have my practice and this search for like the best version of myself, and at least I'll have that. That's the shift in mentality. So something that I did last year that I did this year also was to participate at Culture of Hype and Hope. And that I already spoke of. But what I didn't mention is that last year and this year pretty much had a similar outcome. In both events, I made it to the top 16. I lost in my then first round, so nothing has changed in a year. And also what was very memorable was that my pre-selection round felt really good last year, and same thing was this year. It felt really good. Like I felt that in both events, my pre-selection round was the round of that day. Something that happened last year also that happened this year was my visit to Åsa folkhögskola, the school in the woods. And that's a beautiful repetition. Also something that I'm seeing now that I was very ambitious about last year, which I feel like I've lost a little bit, but it was a nice reminder, is the wanting to get up at 6 a.m. to start with your practice, or to start with my practice. I was very inspired by a friend, Kev, who also does the music for this video under the name of 1212. So if you haven't checked him out on Bandcamp, do it now, please. I'll put a link in the description below. This guy is going places. So check out his music. He also inspired me with the whole like 5 a.m. club that there's also a book about, but really starting your day early and getting to your work, to your like passion, to whatever you feel like you want to get done in, you know, and taking these steps towards your goals, to just start early. I'm at a point now where I'm kind of like either snoozing for like forever or like not setting an alarm and getting up whenever I get up. But I think I inspired myself now to actually start going back to, you know, early mornings, because it's something about starting your day early and getting the most important things done, and then still have a day where you can still get things done and hopefully also get to more fun stuff also that has nothing to do with your practice. That is fun, by the way. Last year it was really a lot about also trying, like I had the ambition to try to not only have my general practice, but to also take time and prepare for battles. So to actually have moments where I shift my focus and going into battle practice mode. And the whole year was, I really tried, or at least I shared how I wanted to do it and so on. The thing that I never got to was to really practice pre-selection rounds. All the battles that I participate in is always a pre-selection first. It can be 30 seconds, 45 seconds, sometimes it's even a minute, to really show the judges that they should pick you for the actual competition. This might be the one moment that determines whether you actually get to battle or not, to then practice doing rounds with that intention. So to have a timer, do 30 seconds, and where you have like a beginning, middle, and end. That was something I wanted to do last year. I never got to it. And this year, what's different is that I haven't really been practicing for battles specifically. I've been just practicing and hoping that that overall practice is just gonna be enough for each battle that I enter, that I participate in. But again, this is a reminder. Maybe I should jump back to that, to get to try it, to get to feel it out, what it's like to have battle practice, and to see if it actually works for me, because it might or it might not. So for people out there watching who enter dance battles, do you adjust your practice to prepare specifically for certain events? And if you do, how do you do that? What changes between your general practice and your battle preparation practice? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear, because clearly this guy needs some inspiration on how to do that. If you haven't seen any of my videos from last year, so Road 35 to Infinity, I've made a full playlist where I collected all the videos, and you can just, you know, browse through, have them in the background while you're cooking or just, you know, doing something. Probably put a link to the playlist up here somewhere. But that's it. That's it for a trip down memory lane. This just makes me curious. I really liked doing this, the comparison between last year and this year. You know, have a moment to reflect and to see, and maybe also allowing my past self to remind me of certain things I wanted to do or was doing and maybe forgot along the way. There's some things in there that I might actually take up again. Those were all the segments of this Road 36 to Infinity vlog, diary, documentation. I don't know what to call these anymore. Videos, which is basically what they are. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I really hope you enjoyed this way of sharing with you. It's a bit different. Let me know in the comments, does this way of sharing with you work better? Not as much? Did you like it when it was like weekly videos, or is one video a month a good amount of content for you to digest? It's almost time for me to fly to Japan. I think by the next time I do another of these Road to Infinity, I'll be in Japan. So that's gonna be interesting. Also, I'm very curious how I'm gonna keep up doing these videos while I'm on the road. The plan is to also do a little bit, to be better with recording my, my days, better with the vlogging actually when I'm in Japan. But yeah, that was it. I hope that you're enjoying your practice, and let's find out what our true potential is. And I'll see you in the next video.